Second.
No, it wasn't recording earlier. Okay.
No. Okay, so I think we're good. We should be recording. Everyone bear with us in case we do have any technical difficulties. Again, this is kind of our first time doing this. So again, welcome Humanity 101, the new normal. My name is Gage Baird. I actually, along with Thomas, produced this series, and we are excited to host this for you guys tonight. Usually I have a whole spiel about where the bathroom is and where the drinks are, but I think everybody in the comfort of their own home knows where the bathroom is. So we'll skip all of that tonight. I'm glad to have everyone here. I'm going to let Reno introduce himself, and then we'll move to Justin, and then we will get along with Thomas, and then Thomas will kick us off. So Reno, we'll start with you if you just want to introduce yourself for everyone that's joined.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Reno. I work as an interior designer and live in Oak Cliff. I'm married and have a dog.
Yay! We don't have the fake audience clap, so it's all good. No, all good.
All good.
All right, Justin.
All right, yeah. So I'm Justin Rodgers. I'm the owner of Victory Park SEO. We do SEO work, website development, PPC, that kind of stuff. I've been involved with a lot of nonprofits here in the Dallas community. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you need anything else, let me know.
Dope. Well, for our audience out there, I am Thomas, and I am also the co-creator and moderator for this. This is a very interesting time because a lot of organizations, groups have been moving over to a digital platform. We're not the only ones, and this is kind of what our new normal is. We thank everyone, especially our panelists, for getting in touch with us or being down to do this with us. Me and Gage came up with an idea because our whole year kind of got thrown off after this, after what you would say lockdown. And so we were thinking we still wanted to make this accessible to people. We still wanted to figure out can we still even do this? And this was the results. So we normally would tackle different topics throughout the year, but especially with what's going on with everyone, we decided to talk about the new normal. So we're looking more so from a forward-looking perspective rather than what's been going on past-wise. So that's kind of what we're going to be discussing. We'll be talking about social stuff, maybe personal stuff that you've been experiencing. We'll take questions from the audience. We're 4 people from different walks of life. We have people that work from technology. We have people that work in the arts and corporate America. And I think our collective viewpoints can also talk about, social things that are currently happening in the near future too as well. And we're going to talk about that. So let's start with first sharing what you guys have been up to over the past few months briefly. Does anybody want to start? Reno or Justin or Gage?
I'll start if that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I've been staying home a lot and having all my groceries delivered, trying to stay active and get outdoors as much as I can. Just being indoors so much is hard, and not getting kind of exercise. So going on a lot of dog walks and bike rides, and also just trying to stay connected with friends and family through FaceTime and Zoom birthday parties. And I, for Mother's Day, had a Zoom meeting with my grandmother and all of her grandchildren. So it's been really interesting. Yeah.
The side eyeing from the camera because everybody can actually see each other, and they're like, really? I got that. Yeah. How about you, Justin?
Yeah, working a lot from home, obviously. A lot of my clients had a lot of physical retail space, and they're trying to make the transition to e-commerce as quickly as possible, since that's going to be looking like their future for at least the next 12 months. So doing that, I've been staying home. I've only, left my apartment 6 times. 2 of them were to go to the grocery store. 4 of them, only 4 have been to work out. Probably should be more, but yeah, just hanging out really. Just trying to take care of my mental health and just making a lot of bread.
Gotcha. Gage?
Yep, pretty much the same here for me. I find myself working a lot more. You know, when your laptop and everything is just kind of set up right there, it's easy to jump back on at night. And just we laugh at work. There's a couple of us that we see each other on super late at night, and it's like we're living in a casino. Is it day? Is it night? Is it Monday? Is it Saturday? We really just don't know sometimes. So yeah, just lots and lots of work. Trying to do some little home workouts. You know, I kind of fall off track and then I get back on. I'm like, oh, this week's going to be good. Lots of walks and runs with the dog to keep her active. But that's about it. You know, same thing, online groceries, online wine delivery, which obviously has been a lifesaver. So, yeah.
Cool. So have you guys picked up any trades or any hobbies while over the past 2 months? I know for me, I've really gotten to like gardening and planting, more clean eating as well. Have you guys picked up anything like that?
I definitely have. We've got a yard with a garden in it, and we usually grow vegetables in it. But this year, I've started a natural dye garden, so I'm growing like indigo and all different types of like flowers and roots and stuff that you can dye with. So that's been really good. And then also, yeah, just kind of digging more into that creative side and practicing those hobbies like doing shibori and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that a lot of people have found time to kind of explore their creative side and projects that they haven't normally had time to explore.
How about you, Justin?
Yeah, definitely picked up the gardening as well. So that's been like a new adventure. Haven't ever really grown anything. I've been reading a ton. If you need some book recommendations, I'm probably your guy because I've been burning through them pretty quick. Let's see here. Doing a lot more work. I've actually been speaking on a few of these. So that's pretty cool. I actually spoke to my first audience of over 1,000, which was pretty like, you know, they told me like 3 seconds before we went live. Like, and we're gonna have 1,000 people on, I think. Boom. I was like, so that was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. That's dope.
Yeah.
And Gage?
I wouldn't call it gardening, but I did get out the other day with my mask on and went to the nursery and bought some plants. I figured there should be something else in this apartment living besides me and my dog. So it's easy to spend a lot of money on plants. I didn't realize that, but once the day was over, I was like, oh my gosh. But I repotted everything that I had, did new plants, and did a little succulent arrangement, which I was proud of. That's probably been the most creative I've gotten during quarantine. For me, it's actually been a little bit different. It's been no real hobbies or a lot of creativity, but for me, it's been learning kind of how to love myself. I kind of came into quarantine in a sort of dark place in my life, and being alone has always been scary. Well, here I am in my 1-bedroom apartment alone. It's just me and my dog. And so it's been very interesting. I will admit, the first week or two was very hard. It was just, didn't really know what was happening. It was new, it wasn't the norm. And so, yeah, it's definitely been interesting to learn kind of how to just deal with myself, how to love myself a little bit more, and to slow down. I go all the time. I mean, Thomas, you and I are friends, and Justin, you're the same way. We're always going. We have fundraisers, we have work, we have this, we have that, and to just be here and kind of everything, just be still. Obviously, work has not stopped, but it's been an interesting life to live over the last 2 months. And I've kind of grown to like it, to be honest with you. So
Cool. You know, speaking about that, you know, I think a lot of people came into 2020 with different expectations than what we all received come, you know, February. So did you guys have any earlier plans in the year that you have either had to push back or you have had to recalibrate or maybe readjust? Any of you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's more so the little things that weren't big moments in my year where I didn't think was big. Like I was definitely going home for Easter, I was definitely going home for Mother's Day. I was definitely going home for my sister's birthday. And it's those things that I've missed more than like a trip that I had planned. So it's just, not getting to do the same things that you do every year without realizing kind of how important they are. That's kind of been a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah, I work as a designer and for interior design, and I was very fearful that when this all happened, that the first thing people were going to do was stop remodeling, building new homes, furnishing new homes, that sort of thing. Um, but surprisingly, this has actually led to kind of an upswing in business because people are home more now than they've ever been home before, and they're looking at ways they're kind of placing new importance on having a more enjoyable home space for themselves and their families because they're there all the time, and that includes outdoor spaces as well. So I mean, we've actually had a lot of new business in the past 2 to 3 weeks, so we're staying really busy, and I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, it's definitely changed things for us, and we're now moving to where we're doing a lot of virtual presentations, to where we're showing the clients all of the tiles and light fixtures and stuff virtually. And it's been interesting. It's been difficult, and it's not the same, but it's the new normal. So you got to learn to kind of operate within those parameters the best you can.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just going off piggybacking what you said, when this whole thing went down, I really thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to just, buckle down in terms of art. But my art has sold significantly more over this period of the past few months. And I know a few other visual artists that their paintings have sold because people are home now. They're looking to invest. And I thought, okay, the economy is going to go bad. So people are not going to be open to spending, anywhere between $400 to $500 worth on art, but they're open to it. So, and a lot of them have been reaching out more, requesting more custom pieces. I know a few other people that I have currently for commission work. So, I mean, it's interesting because I think a lot of us in different industries thought, oh, this is going to be, the end of it. And then you're like, oh, wow, people are home and they're spending more money with us. And, that's not to sit there, because of course you also want to be, acknowledging people. Some people have been put out of work, in their other fields, but, it is interesting to see this dynamic shift of, where you thought, things that are like aesthetically pleasing, like the arts or whatever, would probably take a backseat, and actually they've been thrusted to the front in terms of, because people are home now, so they want to be aesthetically pleased. So that's also a very interesting dynamic. Gage?
Yeah, 2020 was for me going to be the year. I was like, it's a great number. I mean, it looks good on paper. It's going to be awesome. I had a lot of travel plans. I was able to travel a little bit before all of this hit. Matter of fact, I was coming back from a trip when this really was like, they were about to lock everybody down. So I was able to get a few things in. There's been a few things that have been canceled. Obviously for you and I, a lot of our in-person Humanity 101 segments have been canceled. So yeah, there has been a drastic shift for me. My company, so fortunately, I work in corporate healthcare, and we are not suffering at all during this time, staying just as busy, actually busier than ever. But they have actually extended our work from home until September 14th, at least. So, I am going to be here in this apartment for the next while. But yeah, it definitely switched a lot of things. Justin, I like what you talked about, going home for Easter. You don't realize how important those things are until you can't do it. And it's not, and I've missed Easter before. Matter of fact, it's funny that you brought that up. Easter weekend was actually kind of rough for me, not being home. And I've missed Easter before with my parents, with my family. Maybe I couldn't make it in that weekend or whatever. But not being able to is from a standpoint, like you cannot go see people, you cannot get out of your house or whatever kind of thing. That was kind of hard. So yeah, it's been interesting. It was not the year I had planned on, but I that the universe sometimes gives us maybe what we need. And after having 2 months and counting of, you know, I'll say light solitude, it's been much needed for sure. So yeah, plans definitely changed a lot.
So speaking about that, what for you guys what do you think is the new normal socially? What do you think we are headed towards, based on your personal life and based also on your professional life? I'm seeing a lot of companies go to this format, this platform. We're seeing a lot of birthdays and family gatherings, because you have so many different people within your family that may have underlying health issues, or the elderly, things that we've been told that are impacting people until we find some type of vaccine pertaining to this particular thing, which is COVID-19. What do you guys think is for you the new normal? What are your expectations of the new normal going to be?
Yeah, I think that if you look kind of back at, the Spanish flu in the early 1900s, that we have records of that. We've got people's firsthand accounts. We've got even recent interviews as late as 2006 from people who survived it. And they really say a really common thread throughout all of their experiences. It took them 10 years to kind of feel comfortable going back to super large gatherings. I don't know about you guys, but I don't even think, 12 months from now, 50,000 people are going to feel comfortable going to a Taylor Swift concert at Dallas Cowboys Stadium. What if one person has it? Well, there we go. We're off to the races again. So
Yeah.
I really predict that we're probably just going to have to keep it probably at least 200, 250 people and below for a lot of things, and everything's going to be moving online in venues like this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think in short of there being a vaccine, that's really just the way that everyone's going to have to adjust for the foreseeable future. I've heard some, scientists and people in the medical community say that it could take about 12 to 16 months for this to kind of run its course and then be done with and kind of go away. But I don't know that there's really any guarantee that that will happen. Hopefully there is a vaccine eventually, but I've noticed a really wide discrepancy in the way that people are using or not using personal protective equipment, such as masks and gloves. I live in the Oak Cliff sort of Bishop Arts area, and I've noticed, most people wearing masks when they're around, but then when I'll have to go out to job sites in the suburbs or more rural communities, I hardly see anyone wearing any mask or gloves or anything like that. So and that's, I think, problematic, because I think it does continue the spread, and then we're just in this longer and longer and longer.
Yeah, Reno, I like how you mentioned the vaccine, and everybody, I feel like, is kind of holding out for that. But it is also important to realize the fastest ever human, we have a problem to vaccine available was 4 years, whooping cough in the 50s. Obviously, technology has moved forward, so even if you could cut that in half, we're still looking at 2 years. And the current syringe stockpile for the United States of America is, I believe, 15 million. Mm-hmm. And they're estimating 660 million syringes would be needed, which if we went full bore today would take 2 years just to manufacture. So I think we're going to have to start thinking very long term on this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And, with all that, talking about what do you believe are some of the responsibilities of people going forward? Because I've seen a lot of dialogue, through social media, people being responsible or irresponsible. And we don't want to, we're definitely not wanting to be that platform that's casting stones, because, no one's perfect here. But let's focus more on the responsibility side. What do you feel going forward most people will be responsible for within their space?
Yeah, I think you definitely need to divide because it's a pretty convoluted subject. People are saying, hey, it's my individual right to do this
Mhm.
versus, hey, this is maybe my personal responsibility. So
Mhm.
like, I agree that it probably is your individual right in the United States of America to have freedom of movement.
Mhm.
But it's also your personal responsibility to say, hey, if I want this nation to survive and thrive, maybe I shouldn't go and, have a 50-person birthday with the party bus in this time.
I feel that. I
Yeah.
feel that. So
I-
no, I mean, people. Go ahead, Gage.
Well, no, I was going to say I completely agree. I mean, there's definitely a fine line. You know, there's a lot of there's a lot of different facts out there. There's lots of scientists and health professionals saying this is good or that is good or this is bad and that is bad. And truth be known, there's just not enough data. Period. People compare this to the flu. People say, okay, more people die in car wrecks, on and on, and they're comparing it to all of these other things that are normal in our lives. There's just not enough data. And for me, it's better, the saying, it's better to be safe than sorry. I recognize from an economic standpoint that we have to, Texas is starting to reopen certain businesses in other states. And I'm for that. I mean, I'm for the economy reopening, but safely. I think that there have been cities that have reopened without proper restrictions, and those are going to be the areas that get hit again, and kind of throw everything back into a slump. And so I think that economically and socially as well, it's great to start having these conversations. It's great to start thinking about, okay, when can we go back to work? When can we open restaurants? When can we start having gatherings? When can we go to our swimming pool, at our apartment complexes? All of those are valid conversations, but we just need to be responsible. And just because something is open doesn't necessarily mean you have to go. I laughed and got onto my grandmother the other day. She was like, I can't wait till all this stuff reopens. And I'm like, just because it's open doesn't mean you have to go. So I think it's just about trying to be smart. I like the topic about, what's your right as a human versus what's your responsibility. We all have rights. We should all be able to be partying it up and, go traveling and having fun with friends and family and things like that. But from a responsibility standpoint, we have to recognize that our actions are not just on us. The actions that I do are reflect on the people around me. And if I'm sick and I want to contain myself, great, I'm containing myself. But if I choose not to contain myself, who all else am I affecting?
Yeah.
I think that's the scary part there.
Reno?
Yeah, I think it really gets tricky when your right to, not wear protective equipment or go wherever you want kind of potentially causes harm to other people. And that is something we have to consider. I think that there's a lot of politicization of this whole situation and people kind of looking at it as their personal rights versus the state trying to enforce a particular behavior. But I mean, the fact of the matter is there is a lot of research that suggests that it really does help slow the spread. And people really need to be wearing them to, help that, as well as social distancing, especially in places like grocery stores or pharmacies where you can't really socially distance that easily. So it is important to have kind of that protective equipment and sanitizing yourself and just being like thoughtful and cautious, and recognizing that we're all in this together. Nobody wants to be wearing a gloves or mask or anything like that, or sanitizing 5 times a day, but it's really for the greater good.
Yeah, because I think, for the most part, we've kind of been in a pandemic before. And the reason why I say that is that some people would say that review human history or social issues that have occurred with the HIV pandemic that occurred in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, of where We were looking at different isolated groups and how we responded socially is sort of mirroring today, where you have one group that's, thinking like this is not as serious. You have another group that's like, this is very serious. Then you have people that are kind of going off with the idea that if I get it, fuck it, I'm gonna, get as many people out of, just the space that they're in. And also the responses of the government, the same way too, as well, is that the governments across the globe are sort of mirroring their same responses too as well. So it's like, it goes back to the old thing that there's really nothing new underneath the sun. So I appreciate you guys giving, your different perspectives on that. What are things that you guys are doing within your community to sort of help out? I know for me, I've donated to several food banks. I also know that a few friends that have lost jobs, I've had, hired them to do odd jobs around the house. I think everybody should do little things here and there to try to help each other out, throughout this process. If you can, you should, I'm not forcing anyone's hand, but have you guys done anything within your communities to try to, navigate these interesting times?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, like, I'm baking bread for neighbors because I think it's something that's easy to do. I'm already doing it. It's like a cool neighborly gift. And it keeps people like, oh, they thought of me, which is nice. It's nice to be thought of. As well as I'm on the board of directors for a local nonprofit here, and we transitioned from, mainly in-person services to online services in 10 days, which I think is phenomenal. We've kept almost 95% of our clientele that need it. We've added extra homes for the homeless in our housing program. So really just ramping up everything we can to not only maintain that status quo of health, but also reach more people, which has been very successful thus far. So that's been huge.
Cool. Gage or Reno?
Yeah, so a lot of my time has been outside of work, has been consumed with our employee resource group for the company that I work for. I actually, during this pandemic, while we were working from home, we actually transitioned all of our boards, our national and our local boards. So that was interesting to try to transition executive boards during this remote life. And I recently transitioned to our national board. And so a lot of our time has been focused there with how do we continue to engage our employees. So from kind of a corporate standpoint, but also a personal standpoint, not so much out in the community, but with kind of within our own home for, our company. We continue to engage people. How do we continue, as an employee resource group, I mean, your sole focus is inclusion and diversity and making people feel welcomed. And it's great that everyone is at home. They feel comfortable in their own home, and that is good. But there's a lot of questions about things. So what happens when someone's husband walks behind them, or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, same-sex partner, and coworkers go, "Whoa, who's that? Oh, that's my husband." Do they answer? Do they not? And so we're putting together some informational videos that we're going to post for Pride Month, and just again trying to keep everyone engaged. That's really been what we've been focused on, because it's important. Being at home is great, but being at home all the time is challenging. And so we've really spent a lot of our time trying to figure out how we as an employee resource group can help with that. I also have been involved in some conversations with the company on trying to best use money in the community. Who needs it? Who do we want to donate to? Those types of things. So I've been proud to be able to be in some of those conversations. It's like you said, if you can help, and I know my company is all about helping folks, and so it's been good conversations.
Yeah, for me personally, I've just been mostly staying as connected as I can to friends and family, especially people in the queer community, people who maybe are by themselves during this time, because that can be particularly hard. And just being there for them, connecting with them, seeing if you can give them any advice, if they're dealing with any, anxiety or depression or anything like that, just sort of talking with them. I think that's probably one of the most important things we can do. And one thing that I've found really interesting about this whole pandemic is it's almost like a time where geographic boundaries don't exist. I mean, it's just as easy for me to FaceTime with a friend in Dallas as it is to FaceTime with a friend in Sweden or rural Arkansas, which I've done all of those. And it's really kind of allowed us to analyze where and with whom we want to spend our time and invest our time kind of moving forward. So I think that's been one good thing out of all of this.
That's cool. Yeah. And I mean, circling back, it is one of those things that you have to readjust, and everybody has different needs from, it being Mental Health Awareness Month. People are really struggling, whether they're in relationships, or whether they're by themselves, or whether they're in large family homes. Resources have also become more scarce because now a lot of doctors have had to move to virtual assistants too as well. The loss of jobs has also impacted people insurance-wise. We are in a very serious situation of where you're seeing the people that do have are still remaining, and then a lot of people are losing. So, it's a new territory of trying to navigate it for everyone. But, the point that I hope is that everyone that, if they can help, they should. And, we're only going to be able to get through this together. We won't be able to get through this as individuals. Yeah. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to our Q&A. We normally offer a Q&A for if people want to ask any of the panelists or myself any questions. Again, we came up with this panel discussion as a new normal, is to briefly just talk and chat about what's been going on, and what our thoughts are, possibly where things are headed, and if anybody has any questions, feel free. You have, 4 different people that can maybe answer some questions, or however you want to go about it. Gage, I'll allow you to take that over, since you are the...
Yeah, and maybe while they're writing some questions, I do want to just follow up on that last point. I think it's so important that we do give back and help where we can, because people need it. But it's also very important for maybe the outside world, who's not a part of our community, to see, hey, look at all the good that the LGBTQ plus community is doing. Because I do know that in certain areas of the world, we are already being blamed for, helping the spread of COVID-19 along, especially South Korea. So the more good we can put into the world and say, hey, look what we're doing, maybe we're not all the type of people that would go and spread the virus on purpose, or not on purpose, but did. That's very important as well.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that, especially at the fact of there's a lot of people that are marginalized. We haven't even talked about the fact of, minority groups like, people in the LGBTQ community, Blacks, and Latinos have been significantly impacted by this. You're talking about the homeless population has been impacted because they can't shelter in place anywhere, because a lot of homeless shelters have been closed down in large metropolitan areas. I do, so we had a question. Gage, could you read that for us, please?
Yep. So one of our attendees asked, what do you think is the future of work in regard to office life and office culture, even after COVID runs its course?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is going to be a great excuse for a lot of people to get rid of a lot of full-time employees. If you've been a part of a large corporate structure, you have probably seen people who say, like, what do they even do here? And a lot of it is they're just here for a few specific reasons, and they might have been able to automate, and so now they're doing that. So I expect a lot less full-time work. I expect people who've lost their jobs to come back and say, hey, I'd love to work here again. And those business owners, rightly or wrongly, say, well, we just went through a tough time, so they're going to renegotiate salaries back down. So I think it's going to be very rewarding for a lot of people who have kept their jobs and get to work from home, and it's kind of business as usual, which is a huge chunk of the population, which is great. But there is also a large and growing source of the population that is probably in for some tougher times in the near to short-term future.
Yeah, and I'll add to that as well. Working in a big corporate office, it's been an interesting shift. My company employs about 80,000 people, and, making the shift to work from home for most of them. And there's a lot that were already working from home, maybe some of our sales people or IT folks. There was a lot of people that had to be transitioned and a lot of IT infrastructure that had to essentially be rebuilt. But I think a lot of what we're realizing, and I've noticed this even with some people in my department that are not so keen on work from home. I realize everyone's different. Some people love being in the office. Some people love being at home. Some people like a good mix. But I think a lot of those individuals are realizing that we can do the same exact job sitting at the desk in our house as we can sitting at the desk in the corporate office that you just spent millions renovating. And so I think that people's companies' actual footprints, brick and mortar footprints, will probably begin to shrink. Right now they're tiny, because everyone is at home. People will go back to the office, but I see a lot more companies shifting to work from home. Agreed with you, finding that, 4 people can do the same amount of work as maybe 5 or 6. So I think there'll be a huge shift for businesses in general, but especially for big corporate offices. I can tell you our productivity for my team specifically has probably increased since we've all been at home. People aren't chatting in your ear from this department and that department. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what sticks afterwards.
Yeah. So I work for a pretty small design firm. There's only 4 of us there. And my boss has kind of made the decision just to let us work from home indefinitely. And I don't think she'll even renew our office space lease once this is all done. So we'll probably be doing some kind of hybrid work situation where we work from home most of the days, and maybe on like Tuesdays and Thursdays for a block of time, we meet her at her house to, review projects and go over things. But I don't think we're going to probably go back to fully normal in the office 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, probably ever again.
Yeah, I've seen that with a few companies that real estate, they're literally saving hundreds of thousands of dollars going forward. So a lot of them are reassessing, should we still be operating from that when we've operated months, outside of that environment with everybody. So a lot of corporate real estate will be coming up. So that's also going to be something very interesting to see how that impacts, large business areas, large business districts, because areas, say, for example, hypothetically, like Las Colinas, that's here in the DFW, that's a big corporate town. If most of those people, it's dead on weekends when people aren't working out there. So what happens when it's an indefinite thing?
Yeah.
I do think that we'll see a lot of businesses who were virtual, though, say, I've always wanted an office, and look at this super low rent office space that's now available. I think we'll see a lot of those jump into the retail brick and mortar office space just because they've always wanted it, and here's a great opportunity. So it's going to be an opportunity for some, because you are right. There's going to be a lot of space available, and that should drive down rent. Yeah.
So that's going to impact the market. Gage, another question or other questions?
Yep. So it's another question tied to kind of the work from home ordeal, and then there's another one after that we'll move into. The attendee says, I'm a high school psychology teacher, and a lot of my students are anxious or unsure about their college and or work future. Do y'all have any general or specific advice you'd give to the younger generation that they could share with them?
Well, I would say for college, the good news is everyone is online. All the courses are online. And there's actually, I believe, a huge movement building on, hey, if I'm not living in the dorms, eating at the cafeteria, using the pool, shouldn't the cost come drastically down as well? And if a class can all of a sudden hold an infinite number of people versus, 40 people to a classroom max, shouldn't, the per student cost also go down? So I think we should see some universities have already started kind of lowering prices and adjusting. So that could be a huge benefit for them. You'll probably have to live with your parents in the meantime, but there are worse things. But yeah, I don't think that it's going to be a huge issue. If you're just entering the job market, obviously it's going to depend on your field. But I would just say be willing to adapt, because you never know what job or opportunity that you get that you might really love, maybe even more than your major. So
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to say it definitely will depend a lot, I think, on the industry as well. And then also, I think one great benefit is just to have any type of like computer or technical skills going forward. I think those will be extremely useful, and employers will see them as really beneficial.
Yeah. Justin, like what you said about college, I don't know that there's any definitive answers right now of what it's going to look like, but I think there are a lot of opportunities there. I personally kind of enjoyed online classes. I worked all through college, and so online classes were easier for me because I didn't have to leave the office and drive to campus and sit in a class for 2 or 3 hours. I could kind of do it in the comfort of my own home. So hoping that a lot of universities lighten up a little bit with their online learning. And I know for me, it was a struggle. I could only do a couple of classes because all of our online learning was meant for out-of-state students or, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see the shift there. I would say for corporate, like you said, it depends on your field, but I think you hit the nail on the head when you said adaptivity. That's out of every single skill you could possibly have right now and for the foreseeable future, that is the most crucial skill that you can possibly have. I mean, I'm used to working in an office, 4 to 5 days a week, and now I'm at home. I had to adapt, my team had to adapt. So realizing that maybe that one particular role that you thought you might, go into after college might not be that role. And even if it is, it may not look the way you thought it would look. So just being open to different opportunities and adaptive, because the world is going to shift over the next few years.
The world has changed and you're going to have to change with it.
Yeah. I always say have a plan of sorts, have a plan, know what you want to do. The luxury before was that you could kind of just go into college and kind of figure out what the moves were just based on, figuring yourself out. But, based on what we're dealing with now, I'll definitely say it's okay for you to, probably take a break from going into college until you really know what you want to do. Making smart financial decisions for yourself, that's a really big thing. I'll just say it for myself, finances are a big thing. And, if you need to stay at home with your parents to save money, it is okay. It is okay. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people that as we got older, you'll sit there and say, maybe I would have spent a little bit more time at home saving a little bit more money, or, it would have gone. So don't be in a huge rush to just break free, especially if you don't have a plan. But also don't be afraid to get your hands dirty in terms of like trying to get work done. They always say great experiences are trying different things. So if you have the ability to be in an area that you can go and work different odd jobs and gain experiences, go do that. Sometimes you can network yourself real well and get yourself into a position that you didn't think you would have had you gone off to school. So that's just something to think about too as well.
So it looks like we've got another question, and we'll probably try to wrap it up after this one. Says, what will be the biggest change or difference in our society after the virus, in your opinion?
I would say it's probably drastically going to matter on who wins the upcoming election. Yeah. Are we going to give someone else a shot at managing things differently? Or are we going to say this has been good enough and we don't want to rock the boat and we'll just ride it out for however long it needs to ride out? So that, I think the election will be a clear marker of where we're headed.
I think economically, the truth is, I can only speak for America because that's where we live. I think the idea of us having that large American dream currently in the infrastructure that we have right now is pretty much going to be obsolete based on just how everything's happened. A large part of the American industry can't go back to work, and parts that are going back, it's very limited. A lot of Americans that would spend the money, they're transitioning over to online use. So there's a lot of things that are happening simultaneously, whether it be politically or non-politically, that are impacting our society that we're going to have to wait and see. And I've said this in tons of other virtual panels, that the real impact that we're going to be looking at we won't see for about another year, because that's when you're going to kind of see like, where's everyone kind of fallen into place in terms of society because a lot of industries impact each other. So if, group A can't go to work anymore, then what's the point of cars? You know what I mean? Or what's the point of high insurance? Or if a family of both parents, if one parent, works from home full time now, what's the point of having two cars? So it's like these different things that you're talking about. The insurance industry's come down in costs because people aren't driving as much. Look at the gas industry. Gas has gone down. So a lot of people are impacted. So and I say so a lot, I'm sorry. The idea of us being able to have a set estimate on the impacts of what's going to happen, we actually have to wait a year or more to forecast, to be able to sit there and say, okay, we can do some forecasting, but we're so connected now. And that's the crazy thing. We're seeing for the first time in humanity that real conversation of we're all connected, and we really are. And we're seeing the impacts of how, if one part is broken, how that impacts somebody over here. Or if one market is suffering, how that impacts another group over here too as well. So, Amazon's blowing up real well, and that's making Jeff Bezos a lot of money. But retail is suffering, and a lot of big box retails will be closing down. So.
Yeah, I met with a friend today who also owns a store in Bishop Arts District, and she had just recently expanded to a new store in Colleyville, and she's actually going to be renting some space from us now, since we're not using this huge studio space. And all of her orders have shifted to online retail, which she had a big online presence before she opened her store, which was great because she grew that organically. And then now she's needing a space to be able to receive new shipments, merchandise them, and photograph them to put them online for sales, and ship everything out. So, people may think about those kind of jobs as opposed to managing a showroom or doing that sort of thing. Or working at a store, maybe thinking more about how to manage online sales, how to photograph and upload merchandise and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And Eric did make a good point, on people missing their mortgage payments and stuff. I think 31% of people missed their rent payments in April. So we are just seeing the start of all of this kind of negative downturn for a lot of people. But like you said, Reno, there's a lot of growth in a lot of industries that are hiring like crazy right now. So I'm not saying it's easy to find a job, but there are jobs available. And I know several companies who are expanding. They were doing something completely different in that kind of retail sector on making clothes, and now they're making masks like crazy. So if you have skills, there should be a job for you. And if not, it's not the end of the world. Take care of yourself. You've got a community around you that is willing to help.
Yeah, these are challenging times for sure, but they also create new opportunities for people, and that's where being adaptable really comes in. Being able to take advantage of those new opportunities and kind of seize the moment and grow with it.
Yeah, I think it was Rockefeller that said, when there's blood in the streets, there's money to be made, even if it's your own blood.
True. And I guess on that note, we'll probably leave off with Mr. Rockefeller's statement. That's a good way to close it out. I would like to thank Reno. I'd like to thank Justin, and also Gage, who is normally the one that is behind the scenes joining us up front today. And I'm Thomas. I'm the moderator, as well as co-creator with Gage. And, our goal is to see if we can continue this new platform with everybody else. And, we definitely want to become more interactive. And, hopefully next month no, this is May, right? Are we in May? Yes. Sorry, you lose track of months now. Hopefully we'll have a topic for next month for you guys too as well. And we look forward to continue, building a discussion platform, because people need to talk, and that's what we're here for. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for our audience that joined us too as well. This was recorded, and feel free to check us out on social media and message us if you have any thoughts. Keep it positive. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Enjoy your day.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.